Shalom from Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Essen, and this is TV7's daily news update. And in today's edition, we will focus on the latest events, developments, and what they may mean for both the United States, Israel, Europe, the broader Middle East. But before all that, let's introduce our guest for today, to include Mr. Amir Oren, TV7 Israel's editor-at-large. Next to him, retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, formerly an Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs, as well as a senior officer at U.S. Central Command. And last but not least, Brigadier General in Reserve, Doron Gavish, formerly the commander of the Israeli Air Force Air and Missile Defense. It's great to see all three of you. And I'd like to start with General Kimmett. U.S. President Donald Trump is evidently preparing to take that important decision, albeit according to a number of individuals, including U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, he already made up his mind.
Well, I certainly can't speak for Lindsey Graham. I think the president has probably made up his mind to give diplomacy a bit more time. And if it becomes clear that the Iranians are unwilling or dragging, delaying, denying, as they have done for so long, could very well be the case that he makes a decision. Look, we understand that President Trump can be capricious at times. And so I'm not sure, as you said earlier, that we should be talking about prediction markets and poly markets about what's going to happen.
Well, I don't think it's healthy for anyone to bet on reality, particularly during fluid situations. But nonetheless, Mr. Owen, the situation is quite fluid. And we do see, on the one hand, the Iranians and the Russians conducting a joint exercise. What can you tell us about that? And what do they aim to send as a signal? Is this aimed towards the West and the United States, which looks at this and realizes that the power disparity is very significant, or is this more of a domestic type of PR stunt to try and alleviate concerns within the Islamic Republic?
We are way beyond exercises and showing the flag and various efforts at deterrence or coercion, because it seems that President Trump has recently read, because obviously he has read it many times already, Tolstoy's War and Peace. On the one hand, we have this war scare in the Persian area, and on the other hand, his Board of Peace meeting in Washington regarding Gaza. Now, credible reports coming out of Washington in reputable publications point to this coming weekend, to the effect that no later than this weekend could, perhaps should, military operations start. Now, by weekend, we here in Israel usually refer to Friday night and beyond, but in the States, it's more probable Saturday and Sunday, because right now the Board of Peace in a way hampers the American possibility of acting. The participants would not like it. Some of them would leave, would disassociate themselves. However, on Tuesday, the 24th, which also happens to be the 4th anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Trump is supposed to address Congress and have the State of the Union speech. So if anything starts by Sunday, it must be a very swift success for him to announce, such as, this is just imaginary, a daring commando raid in which the several hundred kilograms of enriched uranium are plucked out of Iran and safely transported elsewhere. Otherwise, one cannot see the point of starting a war and having nothing to declare on Tuesday.
Yeah, but Mr. Oren, we both know that's not the case, and a swift commando raid cannot dig into the rubble that was pretty much brought down on top of those quantities of highly enriched uranium during the time that allotted to them. Before such a speech does take place, but let's put things aside for a moment about speculation with regard to the nature of what such an operation might entail in the smaller scheme of things, but rather we do see that a lot of firepower is coming into the Middle East to include, just in the last 24 hours, we see 48 aircraft, some of which include also the F 22s, Raptors, and other types of aircraft entering into the theater of Central Command. This just, in the last 72 hours, we see already 120 aircraft entering into the theater. So we're talking here about the largest aerial buildup since the 2003 invasion into Iraq, or pre-invasion into Iraq. This sends rippling effects, not just in the Islamic Republic of Iran, but also in neighboring countries concerned by the consequences of such a war. And here in Israel, General Gavish, Israel is preparing, obviously, not only to confront the Islamic Republic of Iran were it to be attacked by the Ayatollah regime, but also it has sent some strong signals, messages to the proxies of Iran, including the Iranian proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah.
Well, indeed, Jonathan, and I think that, we see it basically in the last few weeks. Israel is preparing itself. We don't want to be in a surprise situation, so this is exactly what you are expected to do. And also regarding to the discussion that we just had, at the end of the day, I think that what President Trump is doing, this is exactly what you would expect from a leader to do. This is the right strategy. He builds to himself all the options, and then a decision would be made by him whenever he would decide to take this decision. But all the tools are there, would it be diplomatic ones or other tools, but all the options are there for him. And I think this is exactly what is expected. So going back also to your direct question, this is what Israel is doing. We know that the Iranian proxies, we hear them saying all kinds of things, and they should take into consideration what will happen if they will decide, if something will happen, if they will decide to be part of it.
General Kimmett?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that's been said so far, but I certainly hope the president realizes that executing a mission that we're talking about rapidly is not something you can flip the switch on and expect to see this armada attacking within 5 hours. So hopefully he is keeping close counsel with some of the key leaders, particularly those in the combatant command that would actually conduct this operation, because there has to be some clear understanding that we can't put certain two things. Number one, we can't put that stuff in the air immediately. It'll just be too crowded in the air. And number two, the longer you wait, the more the stress starts to build up and among the troops and among the pilots. So I think we're set in terms of the plans. I think we need to get more firepower in the region if we're going to talk about a week to multi-week operation. And I certainly hope that the pilots are sitting in the ready room are getting some sleep.
Absolutely. It seems that President Trump has already held at least one security cabinet meeting in the last 24 hours related to Iran. Naturally, this is the one that was made public. There are others other meetings that, of course, are taking place behind closed doors, and deliberations are 24/7 on everything that needs to be done in this context. But when we're speaking specifically about the buildup, I would expect, General Kimmett, that the United States, with all the assets that I'm currently seeing in the region at least, has enough to start with. Naturally, seeing additional aircraft carriers, not just the Gerald R. Ford, there are reports about potentially a third aircraft carrier potentially entering into the theater as the time progresses, either relieving one aircraft carrier or doing other type of missions as part of a broader scheme of operational necessity. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I think it's good to keep in perspective that certainly we understand that there's been a significant amount of technology change since the first Gulf War. It's important to remember that in 1991, we had 6 aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf and in the Red Sea to conduct the beginning of Operation Desert Storm. So more is better, and it'd be great to have 3 aircraft carriers in there. We'll probably kick this thing off possibly with 2. Doubt that unless it's a multi-month campaign, we'd have a third one in there. But we also need to understand that we've got much more capable land-based aircraft, primarily those in region, but significantly, as we saw in Operation Midnight Hammer, a lot that's still based in CONUS. But this is, as you said, Jonathan, the largest armada that was assembled since the second Gulf War. But it's always good to keep that first Gulf War in perspective.
Absolutely. And yet, the Iranians have probably forgotten, or maybe not forgotten, but are trying to suppress the reminder of what happened the last time they accidentally or not accidentally struck an American vessel, surface vessel in the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. At the time, there was an American destroyer, if I'm not mistaken, that got struck by a sea mine that was planted by the Iranians in '88. Subsequently, it was Reagan who launched Operation Praying Mantis. Mr. Owen,
Yeah, it was
50% of those vessels, or 50% of the Iranian Navy was incapacitated in light of America's reaction.
Yeah, I believe it was the Samuel Roberts, which was
Right.
struck. General Kimmett would correct me.
Confirms.
I assume, but Iran at that time was already exhausted by 8 years of a war with Iraq, and one should not underestimate the possibility, if not the probability, of an Iranian shore-to-sea missile hitting an American vessel, a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, destroyer, what have you. This, for them, would be a victory, regardless of the pain that they would suffer elsewhere. So one should not be so sure of oneself before the war begins.
Well, I agree and disagree, since I think that the U.S. military is quite professional to take all those threats into account and to act accordingly. And the power disparity between the two sides is quite significant. Quite frankly, even if they do launch such an attack and the regime falls, irrespective of what they succeed, it's going to be a bitter failure for the Ayatollah regime. But General Gavish, I'd like to hear about preparations, of course, to the extent of what you could say. With regard to the home front here in Israel or in allied and partnered countries, considering the fact that the Islamic Republic does have quite the large arsenal of surface-to-surface capabilities, ballistic missiles in particular, but also cruise missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. There are additional European countries and allies that are, of course, in theater, ready to help in defensive efforts, but nonetheless, this is a challenge that is being taken into account.
Well, Jonathan, it's very unfortunate, but It's not the first time, as you know. I mean, we could say that the Israeli home front is quite experienced. As I said, very unfortunate. But we've been attacked from Iran in April. We've been attacked from Iran in October. We've been in a war with Iran June. So I think that from the civilian point of view, and from the preparedness of the home front in Israel, I think that people know exactly what is expected for them. I think that organizations are fully prepared and well prepared and are experienced. So if time would come, I feel confident. I think that the resilience of the Israeli civilians and population is quite strong. We have to remember we are after more than 2.5 years of war, and unfortunately, only yesterday we had a soldier that died in the Gaza Strip. So we are still in a war situation. So I think that from the Israeli point of view, of course, this is something that we are fully prepared. In the, of course, from the most important asset is the multi-tier defense against the Iranian missiles, and this is also something that is being prepared, ready, fully trained with our allies, and of course with U.S. forces of CENTCOM. So I think the preparedness is there, and if times would need to, whenever we would have to use it, I think it would be done in the best way.
And of course, we do hear various statements about the fact that Iran has learned lessons from the 12-day war, namely Operation Rising Lion and the Operation Midnight Hammer that took place against the Islamic Republic of Iran after the Ayatollah regime miscalculated in its assessment of Israel for the better part of 2 years at the time. At this point in time, it is also something that needs to be said. Israel and the United States and its allies have also learned and have made the assessments, the upgrades necessary, something that needs to be also put in the forefront. And therefore, this is a battle of wits. And ultimately, albeit a challenge, nonetheless, there are plenty of opportunities to see something good come out of this. General Kimmett, let's broaden the discussion for a moment. As we mentioned earlier, the Russians had a naval drill together with the Iranians, something that obviously the Islamic Republic was very happy about, considering that a previous drill that was supposed to take place together with the Chinese and the Iranians has been postponed to an undeclared date. This, of course, is more of a facade, since whatever is taking place right now, the Iranians just don't have the tools to contend with.
Yeah, look, I think the Russian participation in this exercise is performative more than serious. I mean, the fact remains that couple of ships, I don't even know how many ships there are.
Just a one.
There you go. Shows the armada of the Russian military that they want to add to this fight. I think the Russians are probably putting something in the water just to maintain a diplomatic relationship, particularly since they will need and do need the assistance from Iran in terms of ballistic missiles for their war in Ukraine. Well, look, I think it's also we're sitting here sharpening our knives, but I think we ought to take consideration of the great American foreign policy expert Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who said at Munich the brilliant statement, "Let's hope we never get to this." So let's hope, as was said earlier, cooler heads prevail and we give diplomacy a little more time.
Well, General Kimmett, do you see a scenario in which the Iranians would forgo their enrichment program altogether and would be willing to discuss their ballistic missiles and ending their support for proxies in the region?
They will certainly try to negotiate their way out of that. There's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, I think as has been done against Obama and was willing in the case of Biden, I certainly hope they haven't preemptively conceded the issue of missiles and proxies in order to move to the hard issue of enrichment. President Trump has said he's concerned about the nuclear issue. It's only his advisors and mouthpieces that have said they want to throw in missiles and proxies. But I think pushing back against that, if that is true, what's going to be the difference between the Trump deal and the Obama deal? And candidly, one of the things that the Iranians are pressuring is that this becomes a treaty rather than just a presidential executive order, a treaty that lasts beyond this administration. And candidly, if this is JCPOA revision 2, there's no way that's going to be passed as a treaty in the United States Congress.
Yeah, I remain skeptical about the outcome of a diplomatic solution, not for a lack of trying on America's part, if I may add. Now, General Gavish, I'd like to return to you once more. Do you see a scenario in which Israel joins the fight proactively with its aircraft, in addition to, of course, the sharing of intelligence and the providing of targets and potentially the behind the scenes, low signature type of activities in Iran that is to be expected regardless, considering the fact that President Trump may want to do this on his own with the American armada that is currently in place?
Well, I believe that whatever President Trump would prefer, this is probably what would happen. Of course, Israel could say what we think, what we believe, what we would like that would happen. But I think at the end of the day, that would be his decision. Of course, the options are there, and once again, we are fully trained. We work together for quite a long time. It won't be the first time. So I think we are really in a situation, as I said before, the tools are there in the hand of the decision makers, mainly President Trump. And he would have to make a decision. And this would be probably a close to real-time decision because things are moving. The situation is very dynamic. Of course, the Iranians and what they would say and how they are going to behave, this is also a serious parameter. So it is so complex system that I think rightly so what he's doing, he's allowing himself to take a decision, to be flexible on his decision, and to be able to take them as close as he can to real time.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Oren, we are drawing near to the end of the program, and I'd like to turn to you. General Gavish naturally made the remark of the unfortunate incident in southern Gaza, where an IDF soldier was killed. He lost his life in light of friendly fire. An Israeli sniper errantly identified him as a terror operative. He is laid to rest today, and the same soldier who killed his friend actually decided to go to the funeral, and the parents of the soldier who was killed said that they would accept him with open arms and a big hug, since they understood that this was not deliberate.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the two veteran soldiers we have here, the two generals know too well. War is very costly and is the source of a lot of grief. Some of it caused by the enemy and some by your own troops. And this is, by the way, one consideration that President Trump also has to bear in mind, because this is not Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer ended the 12-day war. Now he has to decide whether to start a war, which may be open-ended. So it's a very, very grave decision, which is not to be taken lightly.
Mr. Owen, Midnight Hammer happened 3 days before the end of the war, on day 9. So in this context, he did operate to try and bring an end to the war after that, which was a success. And naturally, you know how you enter a war, you don't know how you exit it, something that we always say. With that being said, we do need to take also into account the fact that the goals of whatever this operation may be need to be achieved. And if it is regime change, this may take as long as necessary in order to bring about that change. General Kimmett, you have a final minute.
Well, I'm glad in the final minute we can go back to what Amir said. The fact is that we have been lucky in both Midnight Hammer and in the operation against Maduro. There have been no casualties. If we're going to have a multi-week operation, I certainly hope that people recognize that the casualty count could be relatively high, and one that I hope the senior leaders don't take as a cost of war, an acceptable cost of war. Those are families like the family of that sniper and the deceased soldier. That's a huge cost. Sometimes one has to bear that cost. It's a national responsibility. Again, to use a word I used earlier, I just hope that these decisions are not made capriciously.
Well, there's a reason that all of the windows of the chiefs of staff of the various branches of the U.S. military overlook the Arlington Cemetery to make sure that they do understand the cost of war and are able to relay that to the decision makers and also operate in an effort to mitigate the risk as much as possible. We will pray for the soldiers regardless to do so and to remain safe in the various challenges that they are set to face. I'd like to immediately thank General Kavish, General Kimmett, and Mr. Amir Oren for all of your insights. And I'd like to thank you at home as well. Until our next edition, from here in Jerusalem, Shalom. For more of TV7's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com.